Good afternoon. My name is Heather Sherman. I am the director of the Ohio STEM Learning Network, which is proudly managed by Battelle here in Ohio. And with me, I have Kimberly Bell.
And I'm from the Ohio Department of Education, and I am the STEM Education Program Specialist. So I help Heather and OSLN in the whole STEM designation process.
I'm going to see if I can advance my slide here.
Drag it over. Keep dragging.
And then we'll give you our contact info. You have to drive.
There we go.
I thought the arrow would work.
There we go.
So that's our contact information. We will be sending out a recording of this webinar, and also we're both on our respective websites, and you probably have that information from signing up for the webinar today. So quickly, we're going to go through the designation timeline and the process for STEM designation. We're going to do a brief overview of the STEM designation application. And then we're going to try to leave an ample amount of time for questions today so that we can hear from you and address your needs as they come up. Zach has put a link in the chat window, and that will take you to the Ohio Department of Education's website, which is where the application materials, the STEM quality model, and anything else that you might need to help you through this process lives online.
So key designation dates. One that is not on there is this coming Friday, December 13th, is when you should submit. It's not required, but it helps ODE and it helps OSLN kind of formulate some teams for review, but to submit a letter of intent to myself at the department. And then by December 20th, submit an email to OSLN if you would like feedback on your application draft. This is completely optional, but it's a phenomenal resource for you as you try to work towards STEM designation. Then, if you want to, following that December 20th date, January 3rd is the final date to submit that rough draft for review. That will give OSLN just enough time to send it out to the review committee for them to look through, provide feedback, and get it back to you in time to make any changes, because we have shortened the window just a little bit this year to provide for ample time for the STEM committee to review, the OSLN team to review, and to also provide for time for school visits. So all applications are due, the final ones, by January 31st at 5 p.m. And then we'll review, do site visits from February to March, and then April 2020 is when OSLN will notify you of their recommendation status. And then in late April is when the STEM committee will meet and make the final decisions for STEM designation. It's tentative for April 28th. And then something new that we started last year was we started to do a designation celebration, and that is tentative for May 2020.
Okay, so hopefully by now you've had some experience working on your STEM culture and have a pretty good understanding of what makes a STEM or a STEAM school. And the underpinning for all of STEM is really around that culture piece. So building and sustaining a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, emphasizing the development of STEM habits, developing strong partnerships with folks in your community so that you can create authentic, relevant learning experiences for students, and that's the last bullet. So you have to have those partnerships in place to help imbue the learning with that sense of authenticity and relevance for the students. Right now, we've got 69 schools that are designated STEM in Ohio, STEM or STEAM. STEM and STEAM schools come in all different flavors. We've got elementary, middle schools, high schools, public schools, private schools. We've got 7 independent STEM schools. We've got charter schools. And so we strongly believe that STEM is for all. And we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to apply for STEM designation and work through the process of becoming an officially STEM or STEAM designated school.
So the whole STEM designation process has been founded in the Ohio Revised Code 3326, and this started in 2007. And from that law, we have created the designation application. That is where the STEM committee and who is on the STEM committee lives. And that's also where we created the quality model for STEM and STEAM schools. And the application and the quality model are very closely aligned together. So to limit any kind of confusion and just to show that there is continuity, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Continuity between the two documents.
Excellent.
Cool, good job.
Kimberly and I work together quite frequently, and so we like to take a moment to sort of talk about the different roles because we do represent different organizations. So at the heart of STEM designation is the Ohio STEM Committee. The Ohio STEM Committee is outlined in that ORC 3326 that Kimberly referenced a moment ago. The STEM Committee ultimately is responsible for the authorizing of STEM schools. The Ohio STEM Learning Network, so that's us, we help assist folks who are interested in the designation process. We provide technical assistance for the STEM designation process, and we also provide technical assistance for the STEM Committee. We advocate for STEM. We maintain STEM hubs across the state. We provide professional development and help connect schools to resources both across the state and nationally. Do your part.
And from the department perspective, one of my main roles is I help manage that Ohio STEM Committee. So I set up all of the meetings. I keep the STEM Committee informed on anything that Heather and I are doing from a STEM perspective in between meetings. And then obviously I collaborate a lot with the Ohio STEM Learning Network to the point where people think I work for them, which is just funny. But then another main thing is that I'm the liaison between the STEM and STEAM schools and the department. So any kind of department issue or whatever that STEM and STEAM schools have, they come to me as far as, you know, with report cards or transportation or curriculum or any high school graduation requirements. I'm the go-to person to kind of help them figure out this is how you navigate through these different initiatives, maintain STEM and maintain the compliance on certain other things.
All right, so back to the timeline, just to let you know that this is a process, and right now it looks like a straight arrow, but as we go along and as this program becomes more robust, we're starting to see that this is a year-long cycle. Kimberly and I spent the summer going through the application, making recommendations that we then presented to the STEM committee. Then for all of fall, we did a big road show where we visited a bunch of different schools and did 5 sessions across the state, getting more deep into the content that we're presenting to you today. And here we are now at December. We are looking forward to receiving your letters of intent. We'll then be thrilled to provide feedback on your application and then work with the department over the early part of spring semester to get schools reviewed and give some recommendations to the STEM committee so that they can make their final determination. A little bit ago, Kimberly referenced the quality model and the
alignment.
The quality model and also the law. And so we want to show that there is definitely a consistent through line between the quality model for STEM and STEAM schools, the application, and now there's a rubric which provides some detailed information about the ways in which you are meeting or not meeting the criteria that are stated in the application. So we hope that you use these 3 documents, the quality model, the STEM designation application, and also the rubric, all of which are posted on the ODE website, to provide guidance to you through this process. So what we're going to do now is get into kind of the meat and potatoes of the process. And the first thing that you're going to encounter is the cover sheet. So I will leave it to you to sort of talk through the pieces that happen in the cover sheet. And
so the cover sheet is just pretty much gathering all the particular information about your school, the school name, the location, what grade levels you are, and then one of the most important things is what type of designation are you going to be seeking? Are you going to be seeking STEM? Are you going to be seeking STEAM? STEM school equivalent, which is for our private or our parochial schools. And then it also goes through, and you have to find assurances that you will, if you receive designation, you will adhere to what you say you are doing and continue to do within this application. And something just to really point out real quick, and we've said this before in previous sessions, don't check STEAM and hope that, hey, if we don't reach that A, maybe they'll give us STEM. You check which one your school is totally in line for, and that's what you guys are trying to achieve. STEM is not the lesser. It's just a different, some schools just want to focus on STEM, and some schools really want to enhance that arts and humanities piece and be recognized as a STEAM school. So if you want to be just STEM, check STEM. If you want to be STEAM, really hit on that arts and humanities piece.
From our perspective, we see them as both sides of the same coin. And really, it's a matter of cultural preference and what your community wants to communicate to the folks that live in your area about your school. STEM always includes the arts, and so whether you call out that A or not is really just a matter of local preference. One thing to note, if you are a charter school, you need to make sure that your charter sponsor has signed your application, because that's an important distinction. We want to make sure that all of the decision makers are in alignment about your STEM application and are aware that you're participating in the process. You want to do this part?
Yeah, I can do this part. So the introduction is just kind of a brief description of the characteristics of your STEM or STEAM practices and how exactly is your school different from maybe the school down the road? So what would we instantly notice if we walked into your school? What do you want to capture in those 500 words to kind of give us the overall, this is what our school is all about? And it just helps the readers on the review team to kind of get oriented to your school and let them know, like, this is what we get to look forward to reading over the next couple of pages.
All right. So the way that we've organized this slideshow today, and we recognize that this is like the least STEM format, so please know that we know that too. But we want to be able to kind of get through the different sections of the application and give you some feedback about what's important to include. So we're going to breeze through the domains and then the questions that align with each of the domains and talk through those sort of quickly. That way we can leave a lot of time for questions and clarification on your side. So the first thing you're going to encounter is question 1.1, which is how does your school culture promote innovation, entrepreneurialism, inquiry, and collaboration? So this is where you can get into your STEM habits. This is where you can start to talk about the different pieces of your school's culture, the fabric of what your school is, and those almost intangible qualities about your school that set it up really nicely to be a STEM school.
And then the second part is really focused on the inclusive mission and personalized learning. So taking that school culture piece and then showing how every single student receives STEM education. And it's not just, here is, we have a STEM team, we have a pre-engineering team, you know, our STEM pathway, they receive STEM. It is every single student that walks through the doors in the morning, they receive this personalized learning. They get to collaborate with community partners. They get problem project-based learning. They all get the habits of the mind. So every single child within the building receives the same STEM education.
We've encountered a number of different schools over the years who have a STEM program or a school within a school, or maybe a specific group of kids that are in a STEM program or academy. What we're looking for is STEM that is for all the learners in your building. And if you're not at that point yet, that's okay. That's part of the continuum. That's part of the journey. When you get to that point, that's when you'll be eligible for STEM designation. You want to do school leadership?
I can do school leadership. Great. So school leadership, this is really important. And if your leadership is not on board with STEM, then it kind of has a trickle-down effect down to the teachers. So with this question, we really want to see, how does the leadership team, the principals, the curriculum coaches, the superintendents, everybody that is leadership for the school, they exhibit this flexible and autonomous leadership, and they have this shared vision of STEM, and they support innovative instruction. So teachers who are wanting to be creative and wanting to do different things, they're not going to be worried of, oh, my principal's coming in and they're going to see something like totally, the
Kids are making
organized chaos. They know that their principal is going to support that organized chaos and wanting to try new things and being excited and, hey, you know what, I may fail after this lesson, or it may not fail, but this lesson may not go as planned, but I have that freedom to go through this whole entire process and kind of show the kids, hey, this is how we do the design process. And then we also really want to see what school structures do you have that support this STEM-based practice. So common planning time, school-wide design cycle, school-wide habits of the mind, parent engagement, those kinds of school structures that also help support that STEM culture that you've already had. This had to do with his goals. I'm sorry. It's okay.
Also, the quality model is where you're going to see a bunch of bullet points, a bunch of examples about each of these different criteria. So we know we're breezing through these pretty quickly, but just a reminder that this is all fleshed out in detail in the quality model. Yeah, this is a tough one. So this application requires you to talk about your school's governing body and or your STEM advisory group. And so if you're a traditional district public school, you're going to have your elected school board. Also, some schools choose to have a STEM or STEAM advisory group, which helps set the vision and the support for creating and sustaining a STEAM culture, a STEM culture in your school. So if you don't have a STEAM advisory board, you want to be able to talk about how the board is aligned and how the board is going to prioritize your efforts towards the STEAM or STEM culture. If you have a separate advisory group, talk about them and talk about how they were selected and what they do to support the growth of STEM in your building. Separately, you have to talk about a curriculum team. And what we found over the years is that a lot of schools had an advisory group that was also the curriculum team. And so Kimberly and I made a decision to recommend that this question was kind of put in the same place, because a lot of times there's just overlap between the curriculum team, the advisory group, or the otherwise governing body. So here's your chance to really talk about how the leadership of the school, the administrative leadership, and the elected leadership of the school are influencing the school's curriculum. We also want to make sure that this team is working together to create an innovative curriculum, and so there are requirements about who participates on this team. You have the chief academic or officer or principal of the school, a higher education partner, a teacher, and a member of the public with expertise in the application of STEM subjects, right? So this is one of these things that is a requirement. As I said a minute ago, sometimes the STEAM advisory team or STEM advisory team or the curriculum team can be the same. A lot of schools, if you have the elected school board and no advisory group, then you create a separate curriculum team. Some schools have that curriculum team and the advisory group as the same. So how you do it is up to you. But what's not up to you is who is on that group. You need to make sure that you've got your CAO or your principal, someone from higher ed, teacher, and then someone from the public who's going to help connect you to those authentic and relevant learning experiences. One thing to note, if you're applying to be a STEAM school, you have to have someone who's an expert in the integration of arts and design on your curriculum team. So that's that. I'm going to pause here because we have just gone through all of the domain 1 things, and I want to see if there are any questions from the audience that we can't wait until the end.
There is nothing currently. So if you guys have any questions out there, I know there's 7 participants currently. Feel free to go ahead and just type a comment into the chat, and I will go ahead and read those off for you here, just to kind of make the process go a little bit more smoothly for us.
All right, hitting it down the road to domain 2. So domain 2 is 4 sections, and we'll go through those one by one. Kimberly, It was not your time to drink. I'll do it.
Well, I did it anyway. I mean,
You can do it.
I
Okay.
can do it. I
didn't want you.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good. We're good. All right, so 2.1 is really focusing on your school demonstrating how reasoning and problem solving are embedded throughout the curriculum to prepare students to participate in a global society. And what we really want to see here is if you have a design cycle or process, the actual image of it, and kind of walking us through, this is how we implement this throughout the building. It doesn't just stay in your science classes. It doesn't just stay in your technology, your engineering, or your math classes. I could walk into a language arts class and they're implementing the design cycle, that kind of thing, where it's truly throughout the entire school. And then also just seeing, you know, how it is that problem solving and preparing students to be a part of that global society. How are you having these authentic experiences for students to have? It's not just sit and get, it's truly students are not just engaged, but students are the center of the learning.
If you do not have a district-wide design cycle, please do not rush and make one for your application. That's just something that we've seen over the years. A lot of districts have adopted that. It is definitely not a requirement, but if you have it, we'd love to see it. And if you don't, it's really okay. That is not a thing that we want you to go out and make at the drop of a hat. Okay. PBL, we know that problem-based learning is the heart of STEM schools. They're a really nice way to get to work across the different disciplines, and we want to be able to see how PBL drives the instruction and where it shows up in the curriculum. We would love to see in Section B examples of PBLs that you've done, including samples of student work, so that we can get a sense of what your students are producing and how PBL is showing up in your instruction. Also, question C, 2.2C, asks you to describe the interdisciplinary connections. So if you've got kids that are working on a school-wide design challenge, how are those concepts being reinforced in the different subject areas that that project is part of? Next.
Yep. All right, so dynamic assessment. We really want to see how you are assessing your students in a different way than other schools are assessing. So really providing more than just the standard, you know, multiple choice, extended response, but providing just an authentic way to assess themselves. We've seen portfolios, we've seen project presentations, we've seen panel discussions, just a whole variety of options for students to show that they have mastered the content and they understand all the different pieces and everything.
It gets back to personalization of student learning. The next thing has to do with continuing that structure. So in the first domain, we talked about the leadership being a supporting structure. Now, how does that trickle down to the staff? How do we make sure that the school recruits and retains faculty who are interested and motivated by STEM education, people who have experience with innovative instruction, and then also what sort of professional development opportunities exist in your school culture and in your school structure to help provide continuous learning for teachers. You know, we see a lot of times where a school will get STEM designated, all of their teachers are trained at once in PBL, for example, and then down the line, as staff turns over, you don't have a sustainability plan in place for teachers to continue to keep up their experience with innovative instruction. And then before long, they've been doing the same thing for a number of years and we're not back at that innovative piece anymore. So what sort of professional developments are your folks attending? How do we prioritize funding to ensure that teachers have access to professional development? And then how is that showing up in the classroom? How are teachers effectively and consistently using best practices in STEM or STEAM? And then before we know it, we're off to domain 3, which is the pathways to success. And this is all about careers and career exploration and partnerships.
All right, so the first question, 3.1, really focuses on what kind of access, and this is every school, whether you're elementary, middle, or high school, because a lot of times people tend to think that career access should be mainly focused in high school, but we need to start providing our elementary kids the same exact opportunities as our high school kids. So what kind of access do you provide your students to have career exploration and interest, get them out into the field and let them see, all the different options they have, allow them to visit engineering firms or going out to do like a field study with a park ranger and all of those different things.
Construction site. We want to get kids to the point, particularly in the elementary grades, where they can start to think about careers beyond the 5 or 6 different titles that you can name off the top of your head, teacher, lawyer, doctor, firefighter. We want kids to be able to understand that there are different nuances to the world of work, and also help them start to build their own STEM identity so that they can see themselves as problem solvers and contributors to the STEM economy in the future.
So 3.2, this is where we really want to see the partnerships that you have established within your community highlighted. So a partner is somebody who is truly involved with the school. They provide curriculum development, work-based learning experiences. They come in and support the students. They come in and support the teachers. They share resources with the school. It's not somebody that just comes in for a career fair for 2 hours and then leaves. Or it's not the turtle lady. Or I like to use the Cincinnati Zoo because I taught down there. It's not the Cincinnati Zoo bringing in their cheetahs for an afternoon.
Even though we love the cheetahs.
It's amazing. But that's not a partnership. That's just a one-time deal. So partners are someone that it happens not just throughout the year, but it's continuous. And sometimes partners start off small and then they evolve over time into like great, wonderful things. So we really want to see the list of the partners, their roles, and then also a letter of support. And within this letter of support, the partners kind of describe their relationship with the school, what they have provided, what the school has provided, and just how this partnership has benefited the community. And a description of like just their level of involvement.
So you'll see in the section, you'll have a place where you can just list who your partners are, what their role is, attach a letter of support. But that second section, that B part, is where you get into the more description about how the partners work. We had a great experience earlier this year when we went down to Chillicothe. Chillicothe Primary went to their local metro park and said, hey, can we put a trail cam out on one of the trails in the park? And the park ranger was like, of course you can. Well, then before long, that one transaction where they set up a trail camera for the kids to be able to see what's happening turned into this really long-lasting relationship where the kids are in the park all the time. The kids use the metro park as an extension of their classroom. The relationship grew so much over time from that one interaction that in this last election in November, the parks put a levy on the local ballot to be able to update or create bathrooms in all of the local parks so that the kids would have restroom facilities at the park so that they could use the parks even more. So that partnership wasn't just one way from the park to the school, but ultimately it grew over time into a mutually beneficial relationship. So, please list where you are with your partners now. You can, of course, lead to what you hope to have happen in the future, but sometimes we don't know what's going to happen. But we want to really see how you're using partners to extend learning opportunities to students and to have the partners provide a window into the world so that you can connect with what's happening in the classroom with what's happening in the world beyond the classroom. Next part is this.
All right, so kind of piggyback on what she said with all of the partnerships is that with these partnerships and the career experiences, we really want to see with the third question in Domain 3, how you are providing formal and informal relevant experiences with the community to your students. So you are taking the kids out to the parks, you are bringing architects into the building, you are taking kids to I don't want to say a doctor's office, but we'll say bringing doctors in, but you're providing these kids with these relevant experiences that are actually going to engage them and make them want to possibly do one of these careers, or just continue to ask questions and just spark curiosity within them about what's available within their community and just what they can continue to do within their community from these experiences.
You know, that formal and informal piece. So a robotics club certainly doesn't make a STEM school, right? It's not the only thing that's going to make a STEM school, but we certainly want to know if you're engaging kids in activities outside of the formal school day to help them, again, ignite and inspire their passion around STEM and around problem solving. Okay, so those are the domains. That's where you explain your school. The next section is around school finances. And one of the pieces about this is just how is your school going to sustain the work that you're doing in STEM? So what resource allocation process did you go through to reflect the community's priorities for STEM education? So you can talk about in-kind donations that then harkens back sometimes to your partner. You can talk about financial support that's been allocated from your board. Just what are you going to do to ensure that this is something that is not for a couple of years, but for really the long term? And then the last thing on the application, it asks you to talk about additional considerations. So that's open-ended. You can add more narrative pieces, things that you didn't get to say in one of the other boxes. You can add links to more information. We ask that you don't upload resumes or tremendously giant files. Remember, we have to be able to have a number of different people access your application. So if you have a huge 10-minute video, I'm not sure that with the volume of applications that we get that everyone's going to be able to sit and watch that for a really long time. So just be mindful that you want to make this relevant and accessible for people and not overwhelm them. So those are the things. We're going to put it back up on the designation date section, and we'll stop here and see what questions you have.
So currently we just have one question from Richard. His question is about the letter of intent. Is there a template available for that, or is that something where you simply just email in to say which type of process you're going to be going through?
For the letter of intent, there is no specific template. All we ask is that it can be just a simple email, just to myself at kimberly.bell@education.ohio.gov, but just letting us know that you are planning to apply, whether it's STEM or STEAM, and then the name of your school, and then a designated contact person. So I know who to put on the list and expect to get the application from, or if there's anything wrong with the application, who I should communicate with. And that's it.
That's just frankly, it's a resource allocation tool for us. So we can say, oh, we've got a gazillion schools, or just half of a gazillion.
We have 40 schools applying. We have 60. We have 50s.
Currently, there are no more questions.
Okay.
We're going to
So we can give people some time to type those in. I know it might take a little bit.
I know. I was like, we need Jeopardy playing in the background.
You can sing it.
No. Zach can sing it. I feel like he would be able to carry a tune a little bit better.
Oh, I could try. I'm no Rob.
Are people muted?
People are muted, just to kind of make that easier. This seems like Richard has another question here that he's typing out.
Great.
That's the way.
So his next question, does the 500-word limit apply to each or just the first?
Just the first. Just the first question.
We forgot to mention, this is the first time that we are offering people the opportunity to upload artifacts in the application itself. So it used to be 100% narrative with an appendix at the end. Now we give you space and an opportunity to embed links and upload content that you weren't permitted to previously.
Mhm.
We're hoping that this is going to result in a more portfolio-based
Mhm.
experience than just writing a term paper.
Mhm. And if you have any issues with like getting things onto your application or whatever, just contact me and I can try to figure it out on my end.
So next question is from Matthew. Are the designation dates also posted online?
Yes.
That was very unanimous. Yes. They're all on ODE's website.
Perfect.
I think this is copy and pasted from ODE.
It is
Yeah.
modified slightly because it wouldn't fit on the
It's
slide.
okay. That's acceptable.
ODE didn't have that typo about schools.
Huh?
Site visits to selected schools.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
I did.
Okay. Wait, is that on my site?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
You're always your own worst
I was like, well, no, I mean, I wouldn't put it past myself to have a typo because I can improve my own website, which is, you know, I got the typo.
I think we're waiting on another question.
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
You're doing a good job.
You know.
We also know that this was a ton of information at once. And if you're on your way home and you go, oh, I should have asked that, you can email either one of us at any point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a question?
There are no questions.
No more questions.
Well, you know, like she said, always reach out. This is our job, our passion.
We love it.
Mm-hmm.
And Kimberly and I both try to keep each other in the loop. And so if one of us has the answer and the other one doesn't, we work pretty seamlessly together to pass information back and forth. We're happy to help you through this process. If you have gone through this process and this is your first time trying to explore STEM designation and you feel like you're not quite ready after having gone through this, as I tried to explain earlier, this is something that is ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll continue to do professional development. We'll continue to have outreach opportunities. You can connect to a bunch of different resources on STEM through the Ohio STEM Learning Network. Each of you should have a hub in your local area that we can help connect you with. There are 69 designated STEM schools that you can learn from. If you want to set up site visits, we can help you with that. So don't think that STEM designation is the only way that you can move forward on your journey towards STEM. We're happy to help no matter what stage you're in as it stands right now.
We have another question. What percentage of schools are accepted on a year-to-year basis?
Depends on the year.
Yeah.
So,
Can you guys give some averages in terms of what you've seen in the past 2 or 3 years, per se?
I just ran these stats.
last year was about 50%. I've only done one designation season, and it was right at about 50% of those applied.
Maybe
received, but
like 40, 60, but
yeah.
you know, we try to, we've had an influx of applications over the years, but I'd say half is true. The other thing that we see a lot is schools who apply maybe twice, who, you know, through multiple rounds of feedback and additional work at their school, will be successful after a while. Sometimes schools go through this as a benchmarking process, where they go through the application process as a way to get feedback. And that's helpful. I will say that we know that this timeline is rapidly approaching, and there are other opportunities to get feedback beyond this designation process. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're toying with the idea of applying, you don't think that you're there yet, but you would like some feedback, Kimberly and I can work with you on an individual basis to work with you outside of the process. However, if you think you're ready, you think you want to officially apply, you do have to abide by the timeline that's specified on the slide up front.
Go ahead and wait a little more. No current questions.
No current questions. Awesome. If you are done, you want to type goodbye in the chat window so that we know, but otherwise Kimberly and I will wait.
Yep.
And happy to engage other questions that you may have. For those of you who are leaving, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to reach out. We look forward to reading your applications.
Yep.
Bye. Thank you, Sharon.
Where are you sharing that?
Just saw it
Oh,
on the screen.
I was like, what? Huh? That can be edited out.
We are down to 2 attendees. I don't know if they're still working on some questions here.
We're happy to wait.
Yep.
We did this in record time.
Yep. We got all the time in the world. Well, not really, but I mean, I do. Got the whole evening.
One straggler, but they haven't asked any questions. So.
Okay.
We'll wait for them.
Oh, and we are done.
All right. Bye.